Here are 3 more pro tips on how to make the question and answer period of your presentations as good as they possibly can be. A little bit ago, I made a video about 3 tips to make the Q&A period, this critical period in any talk, as successful as possible. The video got a lot of attention, and so I wanted to share 3 additional pro tips on how you can make the Q&A period just sing. Tip number 1, take more than one question at a time, preferably 2 or 3. One of the things that can happen in a Q&A period very quickly is simply running out of time before everyone in the audience gets a chance to pose you their question. This is especially true if your talk was stellar, it's generated all of these ideas and excitement, and you have this audience that wants to hear your thoughts on their questions, their challenges, whatever. This is especially true when you're giving a job talk, but it's also true in other contexts. When people take one question at a time, what can often happen? Well, you start getting into a question, you start diving in, and before you know it, 3, 4, 5, 6 minutes have passed. Really do your best to keep your question or your answers short, but sometimes, things can get away from you. And if you add up 5-minute answer, 4-minute answer, 6-minute answer, very soon the 30 minutes typically that are dedicated to the Q&A are gone. And what you're left with is a room of excited but kind of unsatisfied audience members who are a little bit annoyed that your answers went on so long and that therefore you never got a chance to get to them. Remember, these are human beings. They want to ask you their question. They're a little bit egotistical, and they didn't get what they wanted. They didn't, now you're back on an airplane and their chance is gone. Well, a very simple way to resolve this is by early in your Q&A period sort of announcing to the audience, just to keep myself honest in terms of the time I dedicate for each of your questions, and so that we can really have as diverse a discussion as possible, I'm going to take 2 questions at once, and then I will field them in groups. I have pushed this up to 3 questions at once, although I would never go further than that, and I'll tell you why in a second. So what you do is you have your reading copy of your notes, or maybe a blank pad and pen, and you get to the Q&A period, and all of these hands, pop up, and you can say, yes, in the front row, the person with the blue jacket, and then they ask their question, and you don't start answering yet. You say, wonderful, I will address that. Yes, in the back row with the beret. Okay, wonderful. And you're sort of taking these mnemonic quick notes on your piece of paper just as cheats, nothing extensive. And they say, okay, wonderful. Well, let me begin actually with the second question first, and then I'll come to this one. You can do it in any order you'd like, and blah, 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 blah. Now, you might think to yourself, well, if it's a 4-minute answer, 4 times 2 is still 8, so how does this save any time? The way it saves time is that it provides a check for you, because you realize I'm not just answering one question, I'm answering 2. And so what's going to end up happening, even without you trying to, is that instead of answering each question in 5 minutes, you're going to end up answering 2 questions in 6 minutes. So 3 minutes each instead of 5 minutes each. And you can even push this to 3. You can say, the person in the blue jacket, the beret, the person with the carnation on their sweater, if you don't know their names, or maybe you do know their names in the audience, and you're taking mnemonic notes, and you say, wonderful, let me pause and address these questions. Okay, beginning with this question, blah, 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 blah. What's going to happen is you're going to answer those 3 questions in maybe 8 minutes. So 8 divided by 3 is less than 6 divided, you get the point here. And what's going to end up happening are a few different things. One is you're going to be able to get through so many more questions, which is to your advantage. 2, you're going to be much more concise about your answers, which you should be already, but which it's kind of hard to be without this trick. And 3rd is you're actually going to end up getting more questions, because now the audience is going to realize, oh, there's a chance that this person is actually going to get to my question, and wow, I'm getting inspiration for my own questions by hearing other audience members ask theirs. And so you're going to end up getting a ton more questions, answering them more concisely, and leaving everyone in the audience who wanted to ask you a question a sense of real satisfaction that you did answer their question. So it's just going to create a much, much better environment. A final thing it's going to do for you and your research, not just getting a job or, getting a good reputation as a scholar, is that the more questions and challenges that you can get in the context of one visit to a campus or whatever, the better that is for you, because you can take notes of all of these things. Maybe you're keeping a recording of the event. Then you get to go back to your home office and say, that was an amazing point. I need to edit this or look into this or explore this, or now I know that this piece of my research really excites people. I didn't know, now I do. It's just more generative for you. So, first pro tip, take more than one question at a time, 2 or 3. One caveat, do not take more than 3, and make sure that you take notes while people are asking questions. If you take more than 3 questions at a time, what's going to happen is you're going to forget what one of the questions was, and you're going to have to do this embarrassing thing where you say, the person with the carnation on their sweater, could you say your question again? And that's just annoying. It's annoying to them, it's annoying to everybody else in the audience. So if you use this trick, which I highly recommend, you have to make sure to take some notes where you're doing it, and don't take too many questions, because then the whole trick sort of falls apart. Another pro tip, if you are giving a talk that has some kind of neologism in it, like a term of your own invention or an expression of your own invention, something that's going to call attention to itself, you better be damn well ready to defend that terminology and that neologism. And if you're not ready to go to the barricades for that neologism, you have to ask yourself, should I just cut it from my title or my talk? The worst thing that a speaker can do is give a talk in which the title has some sort of big claim. Like let's imagine like the first time that Benedict Anderson ever said imagined communities. The worst thing that Anderson could have done at that point is have an audience member raise their hand and say, I want to take you to task a little bit on this idea of imagined communities. Like, I see this problem and I see this problem, I see this problem. Okay, imagine if Anderson said, well, it's just a concept. It's just a term, meaning I'm not really married to it. Okay, I'll get rid of it. I've seen this happen in job talks, and that is a job talk killer, because it means that the person has been sort of cavalier, and also that they just folded in the face of even reasonable criticism. And rather than saying, I understand the criticism you're giving and this is my response, like engaging as a fellow scholar to a reasonable challenge, they just kind of almost folded like a politician saying, you wouldn't vote for that? Okay, actually, I won't support that when it comes on the floor. Don't worry about it. Please vote for me. Please give me a job. It just seems a little, I'll use the word, a little pathetic. So if you are preparing a talk and you're going to make some sort of claim that really boils down to a term or a phrase, a catchphrase, a neologism, like imagined communities, or self-orientalism or internal colonialism, something that has this kind of phraseology to it, you need to be prepared to actually explain and nuance and defend that when inevitably someone in the audience is going to ask about it. So the worst thing that you can do is just say, you don't like that? Okay, I'll give it up. That's really not a good look. Let's just put it that way. A third tip is a presentational one, and that is to make sure that you give some thought to the slide that you're going to leave up on the projector during the Q&A. Now, I have seen many talks in which the presenter is clearly, understandably flustered. Again, a lot of adrenaline is running through the system. And as a result, they have left a slide up there which it's either like extremely bright and just sort of projecting bright white light into all of our iris, all of our retinas as the talk is, or it's some sort of random picture of their desktop, like maybe PowerPoint has shut down and we can see like family photos, or just some sort of random slide. Just give some thought to which slide, it could just be a black slide, but which slide would I like to leave up behind me during the Q&A, so that it gives an overall kind of grounding experience for the Q&A itself. This could be your title slide. That's a very logical one. It could be a blackened out slide. But I personally don't really like when it's the final like thank you slide, like a big thank you with an exclamation mark. I typically don't like that type of slide anyway. But there's something strange when, I don't know, a scholar is up there fielding really challenging questions about the transatlantic slave trade or about, Japanese militarism, and behind them is a big, like, thank you with an exclamation mark for 30 minutes. There's just something strange and off-putting about it. And what's annoying about it, just from someone with a little bit of an OCD-ish mind as myself, is that with about 30 milliseconds of additional preparation, they could have just put something up there which actually frames the experience and contributes to it rather than detracts from it. So just give a little thought. What do I want to leave up behind me while I'm fielding this question and having an amazing discussion? All right, so those are 3 additional pro tips for how to have a great Q&A. If you have any tips of your own, leave them in the comments field below. Give the video a like and subscribe to the channel. I'll see you in the next video.